to see everybody joining us. It is Susie Walker here. I am the editor-in-chief of Psychologies, and this is our fabulous new issue, with the amazing Alex Scott on our cover. I don't know if you can see it. Hooray! And I am joined by one of our writers today, intimacy and love coach, the lovely Lauren Barber. Hello, Lauren.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Lovely to see you. Now, Lauren has written this amazing article this month. Let's just see. The woman, can you see that? The woman within. She's written a whole piece to us about how to reconnect with our feminine superpowers. Feminine superpowers. I love that. Tell me, let's just start with the definition of feminine superpowers. What are our feminine superpowers? Tell us.
Okay, so feminine superpowers to me are these innate superpowers that we have, and it's not a case of learning them, it's remembering them. So it's stuff that is so deeply ingrained in us, and there are many of them, but the things that I kind of work with specifically are syncing up with cyclical wisdom. So that may be through lunar phases or through the menstrual phase if you are menstruating. Really connecting with our womb spaces, sensuality, creativity, intuition, and also this ability to really nurture. It's such a beautiful superpower, and to nurture ourselves and to nurture others. So that's kind of a nutshell version.
Okay, I love what you just said around mothering and nurturing, not other people as much as we love other people and our children, but to start maybe nurturing ourselves. I know that from all the kind of readers, from the letters we get from our readers, from the various WhatsApp groups that I'm in, what I kind of get the feeling is that a lot of women are very depleted right now. Either they've been kind of, we've been working from home, we've been homeschooling, we've been looking after other people, or we've been isolated and on our own and kind of trying to be resilient, and we're just getting to the end of the year now and feeling a little bit kind of, well, I know that I certainly have felt that like that on and off the last month. It kind of empty. My batteries are drained. So I love this idea of being able to mother ourselves, to be able to nurture ourselves. So where do we start with that process? Because it sounds such a kind of a big concept, but let's make it really practical for anybody that's listening to this, who's feeling empty, that's feeling kind of exhausted, who's feeling brittle. That's how sometimes I feel, kind of brittle and not kind of in my body. How can we start kind of feeding ourselves in a healthy way?
I love that question. So I think the first thing that comes to mind actually is just bringing in an element of self-compassion and understanding whatever's happened personally in our lives this year. Collectively, there's like such a huge amount of stress and anxiety, and I think one thing I think is really important to just say is that it's really normal if we are feeling that fragile. It's really to be expected, because it is a roller coaster, and I've felt this sense of almost like an accumulative effect, and this autumn it really has hit the nervous system. I think it's almost like we've kept going, and then everyone's like, nope, can't go anymore. It's like that sense of that. So I think working on our nervous system and calming and regulating ourselves is the first foundation to really mothering ourselves. And it's using those practical things, not necessarily the bubble baths and the spas and those more outward self-care items. It's more about thinking about, how can I soothe myself now? How can I bring myself to a sense of feeling more regulated? How can I just, I just use when my hands do this, I use this, like, it's just almost like just bringing all that outward buzzy, frazzled energy down really into the body. And there are a few tools that I love to talk about quite often. And the first one is the breath. So using the breath as a way to anchor ourselves and literally almost feel that starting to kind of deflate. And using a long exhale, so lengthening our exhales actually does help to calm the nervous system. and bring us down into a more rest and digest state. So just taking 2 or 3 breaths where you are breathing in and then a long breath out, quite often through the mouth. So as long as you can, almost until you feel your abdominals start to gently hug into the body. Focusing on that long exhale actually starts to just bring everything down. So that's my first favorite thing to do, and you will often find me when I'm in a slightly stressed situation, just doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And what I love about that technique is that it's you can do it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can actually do it anywhere. Okay, so that's the first step. I'm a great fan of creating rituals, practices. So it just becomes part of my day. You know, so for example, I brush my teeth, and I try to do it. That's how I start mindfully. So I'm mindfully and sort of trying to listen, notice, feel the kind of cold on tiles on my feet, all of those sorts of things. That's so, you know, it's starting my kind of igniting my mindful attention when I'm brushing my teeth. That really helps for me. What self-care practices or what nurturing practices or routines or rituals or then can we start bringing into our day, which will do what you're saying, bring us down? We start with breathing. What else?
So a few other things. One is just very simply feeling your feet on the floor. So almost reminding yourself that you've got stability under you. So particularly I find this useful if I'm out and about, just suddenly if things get a little bit tight, tense, if I start to feel myself in that kind of stressed state, then it's just, I can feel my feet on the floor, I'm secure, I'm rooted. The other thing that I do a lot is hand on heart. So hand on heart actually it can be really, really soothing. It can be, you can kind of access it whenever you are, wherever you are. And if you're watching now and you want to try it, just bring the palm of your hand to the heart and just maybe take that long breath, feel your feet on the floor. And those 3 things together, I find can be so centering and just kind of remind yourself that you've got you. So that's those 3 together I do that throughout my day now.
I think just that phrase, you've got you. So it's that this idea of mothering ourselves. So many of us are, well, I would say that most of us watching this video are grown-ups now. We don't have too many teenagers or children watching these videos. But I think, you know, I certainly found at the weekend, it was my kind of inner child wailing, just in desperate need of comforting, of reassurance, of, you know, I was triggered by something and then I went off on one and then it spirals out and I find myself literally like a child hiccuping over whatever it was. And it's how do we, you know, this idea, all these practices feel like, you know, I've got you. It's like, how do we become our kind of almost reparenting us in the moment and just so when you feel that, you know, often the trigger feels often like it comes from a very primal childlike place of not feeling secure and not knowing what to do or feeling hurt or and then being able to mother that part of you feels it feels like a lovely thing to do. So I love what you're saying, you know, about that. Another part of your practice that you talk about in the magazine is being able to mine the body's innate wisdom, you know, being able to hear your own wisdom. And again, I was talking to a girlfriend about this last night. We were talking about men and we were talking about, you know, we need to, rather than listen to all the nonsense, is just to kind of come back to center and kind of check into our own wisdom about, you know, what we know to be true. And we were saying, but how do we do that? What do we do? And I have certain practices like journaling or meditation, all of those things, and then it'll come in when I'm having a shower, and I'll hear it. But is there another process that we can use to kind of get in touch with that wisdom?
Well, I think there are many ways, and I think it's one of the adventures, I suppose, is to explore the many ways and find what works for you. So I find that combination of movement and stillness actually helps to kind of unlock. So often it will be movement to kind of move and shift stuck energy and sort of return me to my body, so I can start to feel sensations and really notice, like, oh, I've got like my shoulders are really tight. I'm bracing. Okay, what am I bracing against? Oh, it's the stressors or certain stressors that might be coming up. Okay, now how can I nurture myself? Oh, I could invite my shoulders to soften. So I think it's finding your own way, but movement unlocks and shifts energy. I like to think of it that way. And then when you feel ready and comfortable coming to stillness, that's when the wisdom tends to drop in. But equally, I find nature, being out in nature, being out on walks, and connecting in with the seasons as well, those are all things that help me connect to that wisdom. So there's not really a one size fits all.
No. But it almost, that feels like we're on receiving mode, you know, when we're trying to connect that. And for me, it's like, how do I do that? But actually, it's not a doing thing. It's an opening up, because it's not my mind. You know, it's my thinking that's got me here, which sometimes is a wonderful place that I'm at. But sometimes when I'm trying to solve a problem, it's my skew-whiff thinking that has got me to this place. So it's almost, I'm trying to kind of, which meditation helps to try and get under the kind of current thinking or the personality piece, where I'm like, I'm right, this is the way forward, da, 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 da. And it's trying to dissolve that a little bit, so you can hear some other ideas or some other solutions that might be a good way of doing it.
I think so.
Allowing. Yes, allowing. That's right. So being in nature, being in the shower, driving, all of these things allow, you know, something other than our own, you know, because it's, you know, it's the trope that, you know, if we keep on thinking the same old thing, we keep on doing the same old, you know, nonsense. Not always nonsense, but it's allowing for new ways to come in. And I think
there has to be space. There has to be an element of space, and that might be like 5 minutes of space where that sort of creativity comes in, or that solution comes in, or it might be a bit longer. I was really reminded of this recently, and I took a sort of step back from my work, not completely, but just because I was like, I feel like I'm overthinking it too much. I'm too overanalyzing. I'm trying to find the answers, and they never come in that forcing mode. It's always when I create space. So pause, reflect, allow that to come in, and then suddenly it's like, oh, there's the clarity, there's the message, there's the wisdom.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's often what I'll do is genuinely ask and say, okay, I need a sign. I know I'm a big fan of something called street wisdom, which is all about sort of, it's a kind of a urban mindful practice where you go through the streets and ask a question at the beginning, sort of tune in, which is kind of slow down, and then open up and ask a question and see if you can get the answer. And it's extraordinary for me how that works, you know, and literally in very, very specific way. The other day I asked, is this the right direction to go in? And literally within 5 minutes, an email pinged onto onto my phone, which said, this is a camper van life, and this is how you do it. Da, 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 da. And I was like, wow, oh my God. And literally, this amount of dogs, and da, 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 da. I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
I love it.
Yeah. So it is, you know, it's believing in the kind of synchronicity and reading the stuff that's coming in, isn't it?
And cultivating trust, I think, in little ways, so that when it comes to big things, you've already strengthened that trust muscle, so that you can really listen. You know what is coming from that gut instinct and that inner wisdom, rather than it being from the external, if that makes sense, or the shoulds.
Yes. So I think that's absolutely, without that trust in yourself, or trust that is wisdom. And I think one of the saboteurs that many of us find is doubt, isn't it? That we doubt ourselves, we doubt that wisdom. How would you deal with doubt when you get that kind of real, like, I'm not sure if that's right. You know, you get that wisdom and you think, yes, that's the right food. Then when you actually think it's food, oh, I don't know, is that right? And then it stops you from moving forward. How do you handle that?
Yeah, so I think I just work on connecting with, like, is this coming from fear? So is this something I'm frightened of? And where do I feel it in my body? So I think once we start to do more practices and connect more with our body, we start to feel these things more physically. So doubt or fear might come from, say, that like real like knot in the stomach or that sort of contraction in the body. Whereas that like knowing and okay, I might be a bit scared, this might be a bit out of my comfort zone, but I actually do trust that this is the right thing. That sometimes comes from a different part. So it's almost just getting to know yourself, which these practices help you do so that you can make a decision. And yes, it might still be a bit scary, but if you know in your heart, or maybe it's your gut or your womb space, that you are like, this is right, then it's different to that, like, oh my God, I shouldn't be doing this. So it's knowing the difference in yourself. And that's why practicing it with little things, like even things like what should I eat today, or which direction should I take on this path, like practicing it in everyday life then means when you are making that big step and it feels scary but right, then you know you can trust that. Does that make sense?
Such brilliant advice. I think that's so great. I'd never thought about doing that, but it's just like, so noticing almost that how when you're making one of the wrong decision, or you're making a decision that's based on fear, which I would say is wrong. You know, so for example, I get that kind of horrible feeling in my throat.
Right. Yeah.
It kind of comes from this very kind of strained place. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's a wrong decision. Do you know what I mean? And then when I'm making good decisions, it comes from, definitely comes from my stomach, you know, that kind of very grounded place. That's so interesting. That's so useful. You've already changed. That's great.
The body wisdom.
Go on.
No, I was just saying, it's just the body's wisdom is just when we start to connect it, which is why I feel movement is such a key part. Then like there's just so much that it tells us.
Yeah, it is. It's so true, and because we're running around so much, often we don't tune into that, do we? Lauren, this is so useful. Now we can go up above. There's lots of links to Lauren, and you have something called, well, let's do a quick plug for you, the bundle journey to the heart. So tell us a little bit about that.
So on my website there is a Journey to the Heart bundle of practices. So it's in the magazine. I'm talking about breast massage as one of our embodiment tools, and this is actually a guided audio journey through that process with a meditation that goes with it, and another meditation that connects you into your heart space. So this part of us that holds so much nurture and love and wisdom. So, but there's lots of other little goodies in my online shop as well. So whatever people are called to.
Lauren, thank you for that. And you know, you can also read Lauren's wisdom in this wonderful article in this month's issue. We've got you on the cover. Feel alive again. This is the promise that again already just by this interview, I think that's a really fantastic reminder about. I love this thing about, you know, tapping into the body's wisdom to our own wisdom. Lauren, thank you again for your wisdom and for everything that you said today. I feel really inspired for this afternoon's meetings now.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
See you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.